What's up, everybody? It's Kristen here, and welcome to our talk for today, where we are really going to be looking at our mindset around failure. And I know that it can be hard to think that way, especially when you are excited and looking forward to change and really, invested in achieving your goals. It can be hard to take a step back to talk about failure, bring up failure. I think sometimes people think it's a threat, to their motivation, to their ability to continue showing up. But I honestly think that acknowledging the realities of failure and even reframing that, we're going to go into it, but I'm just using that word for now, can really be helpful in getting comfortable with what that could look like, what that might feel like. Because the reality is that anytime that we succeed at something, there's been several hundreds of failures before that point. Anybody who's succeeded at anything, there's been trial and error along the way. We rarely get it right, rarely get it perfect ever, if ever, getting it perfect on the first try of something. And so, sitting with the word failure and, talking about it, thinking about it, considering our relationship with it, exploring our narratives around what failure means, and making sure that we're not internalizing the experience of failure to be something that we should identify with, I think are all actually healthy things to explore when you're starting out or even just maintaining, a wellness journey of any sort. So it's kind of like I do a lot of like relationship comparisons here because it is relationship with yourself that we're talking about, but it's kind of like people who do premarital counseling or even couples counseling where you're having some hard conversations. Like premarital, I think that y'all know I'm a therapist. And I do couples therapy. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, so I actually do this couples work. And a lot of times with premarital couples, there will be one or both, people in the relationship that are a little hesitant to do premarital because they know that the big, topics are going to come up: in-laws, Lord, finances, intimacy, children. It's all these things, or prenups, all these things that people are like, oh, I don't want to really talk about it because I'm not really sure. And what if we can't? But the reality is that that's the healthiest step that anybody can take. And then this example in couples work, that's the healthiest thing you can do is get into your premarital counseling and have those hard conversations early on. And so when we're talking about failure today, that's kind of the same essence of before we even get to a point where we've been disappointed or feel let down, let's talk about it and maybe take some of the blow of it all away by just getting comfortable with the reality of this as a part of the journey and ultimately figure out how to use it differently so that we can continue moving forward. Because I think sometimes the heaviness and the avoidance of failure is that usually it's a dead end. We never really figure out how to flip it and use it for our benefit. And so because it's so big and scary and I just don't want to fail at this again, we kind of avoid it. But if we can get comfortable with it, then I really think it can be a tool that we can use. Whenever we're at a point of failure, where something that we planned for did not pan out, where maybe we just really gave our all to something and it just didn't work how we wanted to. So it could be on any point of the spectrum of, it could be like a minor disappointment, a minor setback, something that, is more temporary in nature, or it could be like a big time, like I really just dropped the ball on something, or a plan that I had just really did not come through. I think that I envision us being at like a fork in the road. Okay. So at the heart of all of this mindset stuff is always acceptance. It's always going to be taking in the reality of the situation from an objective standpoint. So objective means we're not putting sauce on it to make it more negative or more extreme than it was. And we're not, avoiding the reality of the situation to not feel or experience discomfort and pain around it. We are accepting it for what it is, and we're at like a fork in the road. And so this is where how your relationship with failure is set up is going to be important. Let's say going to the left is that my relationship with failure becomes internalized. When my relationship with failure becomes internalized, I immediately go to I'm not good enough. Maybe this is you. Maybe you go to, I'm not good enough. This always happens to me. I knew I shouldn't have tried. I knew I couldn't have done it. I knew this wasn't going to work out. Like, why me? You know, there's a lot of helplessness, a lot of hopelessness, a lot of disappointment and insecurity that kind of comes up in that narrative. And that's what happens when we internalize the experience of failure. That's exactly what's going to happen. And honestly, once that narrative starts, it's either going to prevent you from trying, or it's probably going to start to influence how you pursue other goals. Because when I've internalized that narrative of being a failure, now I'm more timid about the next goal that I set. Now I may not even be really putting my all into something, which is what? Probably going to lead to more disappointment at the end of the day. And so when we take that route of internalizing our failure, we're basically, I don't want to say that we're choosing future failure, but we're definitely opening ourselves up to be more susceptible to those emotions and those experiences just by way of our posture. But if we're at the fork of the road and we can look at failure as being feedback, keeping failure objective and external, okay? It's not us, it's not our being, it's not a part of us, it's something that happened to us or that we experience that we can now look at, evaluate, and use as feedback for what we need to do or can try to move forward. Now that's a completely different relationship with failure, right? This is what any athlete that's become excellent at their craft, only way they became excellent shooters, excellent ball players like they have, is from taking their failures, watching film. That's literally all I used to do when I was playing sports in college, is that we would watch film. If we lost the game, we would go back into the locker room at some point and we would watch film, and we would go through and say, okay, so I could have gone this way, I could have gone that way, we could have done this, and then that would have led to the outcome that we wanted. We were using our failures and our mistakes as feedback. Now, the flip side of that, say if we had taken the other fork in the road, we would have been like, ooh, throw the tape away. I don't even want to think about it. Just throw the tape away, throw the season away, no more games. We're just going to fail from here on out, and we're not good enough, and it'll always be this way, so why even play a game? Y'all hear that narrative out loud? That narrative of just throwing the entire season away because of a failure, because of a loss, sounds wild, right? I don't want to say crazy, but it sounds very extreme, very irrational, right? But when that mindset of let me use this, let me take this material, let me take this information, put it back into my plan, reconsider my notes, figure out what my strengths are, figure out what my challenges were, and use that as a way of refining my journey moving forward. That is the mindset shift that we ultimately have to achieve. So long as failure only leads us to a dead end, only leads us to a personal narrative that is negative and self-defeating, we will never really be able to achieve anything. And then if you do achieve something with the I am a failure or I'm not good enough mindset, even when you win, it will feel like you didn't do it. It'll feel you have imposter syndrome. You'll feel like, it was just luck. You won't give yourself the credit. You'll never really fully embody the joy and the content and the excitement around achieving anything anyway. And so even if that in some situation feels actually true to you, that no, Kristen, yes, I am, and yes, I did, and that's just the reality of the situation. Let's just think about it, but that's not helpful. Okay, let's say, okay, whatever, it's true. All right, again, I don't think it's true, but let's just, I'll humor you that it is true. Is that helping you move forward? And the reality is no. Does that, change your experience when you finally do win? No, if anything, it just puts a dark cloud over the experience altogether. But when you can take those challenges, those mistakes, those errors, those areas of growth really, and use them as a tool to help you move forward, I promise you guys, once you master that and you see the fruit of moving forward in that way, you're like, once you get to, honestly, even before you get to the end goal or whatever the case may be, your confidence is going to be so next level because you're not letting your humanity stop you, you know, from moving forward. Your confidence is going to build. You're going to fall in love with the process. You're going to look forward to going back to that film and figuring out what you can do better. Not because you're self-deprecating and beating yourself up, but because you see the opportunity that's at hand. When I was in grad school for counseling, I knew probably day one that there was some sort of like watching, like we would go into, of course, with everybody's consent, we were in like a practicum setting at our university where we would offer services for low cost or free, you know, for us interns, in exchange for the session being able to be recorded with the client's permission. So all the clients knew that, hey, I'm coming here and I'm agreeing to our film, our tape, you know, counseling tape being reviewed by my counselor and her supervisor. Y'all, when I heard about that, like at orientation, I was so afraid. I was just like, no, someone watching me. I can't. I remember feeling so afraid of it and so nervous about it, you know? But once I got into that portion of my schooling and I realized, you know, I'm in the therapy session and I'm doing what I feel like is best, you know, I'm a complete newbie, like new newbie, like don't even know. Like, where is it in the textbook? Like completely, you know, just green. I started to realize, you know, I want to watch this tape with my supervisor. It started to be something that I look forward to because when I would go back into the sessions, I would feel more confident, more aware of how I could maneuver these situations differently. It was helping me. My failures, my mistakes, my weaknesses, and watching them back and using them as a way of refining my skills literally has made me the person that I am today. Quite honestly, I miss that. I wish somebody, sometimes when I'm doing these videos or I'm, you know, doing therapy or whatever, I'm like, man, if somebody could just come watch and just tell me how to do this different. Those are things that go through my mind because those moments were the feedback that I needed to improve upon my gift. All right. And so that is the same thing I want to let you experience in your own journey. There have been things that you have done, and I don't care how long you've been doing them the old way, how long you've been feeling that you've been failing at something. Don't be afraid to go back and look at those things, not for shame. We don't need any more shame. We don't need to go back and get shame. We don't need to go back and get guilt. We don't need to go back and beat yourselves up again. You did it enough when it happened. But if there's some feedback, if there's some strategy, if there's some different supports or different things that you can bring out of those situations to help you in moving forward, then don't be afraid to do that and implement something around that feedback moving forward. Let it be a tool. Don't let it be a method of destruction for whatever your goal is or for your self-esteem, really, is ultimately the problem there. Let it be a tool that helps you move forward. And in doing that, I can't emphasize it enough how much your self-esteem is going to improve just by changing your relationship with failure. And so let's lean into that. That's an experiential homework assignment. I know that's not going to be something overnight that you would do just from this one video, but if you can wrap your mind around posturing that way, I'm at a fork in the road and I'm deciding to use my failure as feedback. I'm making a decision to think of it that way. I'm making a decision to look at it and apply it that way. I think it's going to completely transform the way that you move forward. So thank you for joining me for today's video. I hope it was helpful to you and I will see you next time. Bye.